Good evening and welcome to Thinking Thursday. I'm Bronwyn Lucas, your host, licensed professional counselor, certified Christian counselor, and life coach. All these things I've trained in to help you become a better you. We are a little late starting tonight because what's life without technical difficulties? In our electronic world, you can count on something going wrong at some point. So tonight was my night. Um, you can't help it and plan when your computer decides, I'm going to update. Well, it never updates at a right time. So that's tonight, and we are just going to work our way through it. Tonight's topic, you may have seen or may not, is oh no, it's not just a little sugar. We'll be talking about diabetes and why people want to call it just a little sugar and ways to manage it. We do have a guest tonight, Sister Mama Sonya, my oldest sister, and I'll introduce her and she'll be on shortly. But you know, we must start off breathing because, huh, we got to woosah and manage the day. And especially in our world of COVID and just life happening and life being hectic, we need to take a moment to just breathe because just breathing really can help. So we're taking that time out right now to just breathe. Ha. So, if it's your first time with us, let me explain. Deep breathing allows us to take more oxygen into our brain, into our body. Our heart is going to be a little better just by taking in some really deep cleansing breaths. So, how do you do that? I will count to 4 and you'll breathe in on my slow count to 4 and you'll breathe out on my count to 4. Let's try it. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. One last in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. So, all of you that are here tonight, I hope you took a few deep breaths, and I hope that kind of made you just a little calm for just a moment. So, tonight's topic is yes, is not just a little sugar. We will be talking about diabetes. And we're joined by Sister Mama Sonya. Sister Mama Sonya, how are you this evening?
Doing just fine, and you?
And before she gets started, I have a few little facts I want to tell you so that we're in a little definitions and just getting us all started so we're on the same page. So, just what is diabetes? Well, diabetes is a condition in which the body doesn't properly process food for use for energy. Most of the food we eat is turned into glucose or sugar for our bodies to use for energy. The pancreas, the organ that lies near the stomach, makes this hormone called insulin to help glucose get into our cells of our cell bodies. When you have diabetes, this whole system is out of whack for you. It is not working. Your body is not producing what it needs. And yes, there are different types of diabetes. There's type 1 and type 2 diabetes. People with type 1 diabetes don't produce insulin. People with type 2 diabetes don't respond to insulin as well as they should. And then later in the disease, they often just don't make enough. And the third type I'll mention is gestational diabetes. And that is a condition in which your blood sugar levels become high during pregnancy. And this can affect up to 10% of women who are pregnant in the U.S. each year. So, what are some numbers look like? So, what does diabetes look like in our community, the African American community? Well, blacks are 1.7 times as likely to develop diabetes than whites. The prevalence of diabetes among blacks has quadrupled during the last 30 years. Among blacks ages 20 and older, about 2.3 million have diabetes. And that's we're getting close to 11% of people over age 20 who are African American have diabetes. Blacks with diabetes are more likely than their non Hispanic white counterparts to develop diabetes and experience greater disability from diabetes related complications such as blindness, kidney failure, increased risk of heart disease, and stroke. The death rate for blacks with diabetes are 27% higher than for whites. Among um, diabetics, blacks represent 60% of patients receiving primary lower extremity amputations compared to 53% of whites with diabetes. In addition, 23% of black patients with diabetes and 20% of white um, diabetics have repeated amputations. So, diabetes is no joke. It takes a toll on our bodies. When we think about it, we, it's a lot that we have to manage. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. What do I do with this? How do I manage this diabetes? It's no joke. As you see, as I read through some of the statistics, you see that it truly impacts our community and not in a good way. So tonight, I've asked Sister Mama Sonya, who actually is my biological sister, to join us. And she is a diabetic. She is also trained as a diabetic self management trainer. We come from a line of people who want to educate and others and change and help make your lives better. Sister Mama Sonya, I'll let you introduce yourself. And she's also a poet and an artist. So she's going to start off with a poem or written something, creative expression for us dealing with diabetes. Sister Mama Sonya?
Just a little sugar. As we gather around the table and get ready to eat, fried chicken, rice and gravy, smothered potatoes, desserts, and plenty of meat. Do we try to set some limits, or do we eat this at all? Do we pull back from the table, or do we drop the ball? It's so challenging when you just have a little sugar. When we are first diagnosed, we're in a daze. When we realize it's not just a passing phase, our life is now a new and different ballgame. Who we are, our lifestyle will never be the same. We want to learn how to eat just right, so we go to the nutritionist. We want to learn how to manage our sugars, so off to the endocrinologist. For a while, we follow all the rules and do what's right. We put our best foot forward and begin to fight. We join the Y, begin yoga. We exercise every day. We walk, we run as we try out this new way. It's more than a notion when you just have a little sugar. Then we start down that river of denial and get tired of following all these rules. Stop exercise, eating right, using our tools. Needles in the stomach, arms or thighs. More needles in the finger to see if sugar levels are low or high. Pills in the morning, maybe noon at night. Can be so overwhelming, it's hard not to get these things right. We endure the criticism, impatient and scorned from our loved ones, who mean well but who just don't have a clue when all is said and done. They tell us, all you need to do is eat right, check your sugar, do what you need to do. You see, you sick and you suffering because of what you just doing to you. Resentment set in and we get mad at them. And suddenly you're at odds with sister, brother, daddy, friends, and even mom and them. We can't talk about how we really feel inside. We can't seem to get honest with ourselves because of our false pride. We don't talk about it to anyone. We're ashamed of our indiscretions. We shut down, feel hopeless, and fall into the deep abyss of depression. It's so overwhelming when you just have a little sugar. But stop! Wait just a minute. We will not go out like this. Against this disease, we will fight and resist. We start all over because it's a brand new day. And we begin to handle this thing in a sensible and healthy way. We get honest with ourselves and realize what we must do. And we bid this denial and unhealthiness adieu. It will no longer control us or get us nonplussed. It's not just a little sugar. We've got a disease and we will control this thing called diabetes. And that is a poem that I wrote for a book that I wrote several years ago. It's called Sweet Sensations for the Spirit, Living Conversations of Diabetes. And in that book, we just interviewed several people who had diabetes. Unfortunately, at least 5 people in the book have since lost their lives and succumbed as a result of complications during diabetes. So what I really want to do is I was just so glad and thank you for my sister. I am the older and wiser sister for those of you all listening, and she keeps saying I'm my older sister. But
I'll
what I'm
admit
just
to older.
okay. But I'm just so happy to have this opportunity because I look for any type of platform that I can to talk about diabetes.
Well, thank you. We are going to have that conversation tonight. There is so much to, just be said about diabetes, and as we even figure out how to manage this. So I gave some statistics that are can be staggering if you've never heard them before. We know what diabetes is. We don't always know. We just know it's something people have in our community and we don't want to get it. And that, for some people, is the extent of their knowledge. So that's why I wanted to have this conversation tonight. I will say, while on the way over here, I told someone what the topic was, and they said, "How dare you talk about this right before the holidays? You know, I'm trying to get my sugar on. Don't talk about my sugar." And I said, "That is the best time to talk about it." And she agreed, but thought, yeah, but it is so true. This is a time we need to, have this conversation. November is Diabetes Awareness Month. As you know, on this show, I try to see whatever the month is, and there's so many things each month, and we try to address that because it is a time to bring it to your attention. It's also a time as we enter this eating holiday season, even in the world of COVID, that we talk about it. So I want to ask you, and thank you for joining. I see Faith and Jay Leslie and Eugene are here. Thank you for joining us this evening. So, Sonya, let me ask you this. When were you first diagnosed with diabetes?
Well, I was first diagnosed back in 1991. I never forget. It was in the summer, in August of that year, and I knew that I had some things going on with me. Uh, I was urinating quite a lot, often at night. I was very thirsty, and I lost weight. Now I'm not a big girl. I'm not a little girl. I'm a nice sized girl, regular. But at that point, I went down to like a size 4. Now I thought I was cute, but nobody had the nerve to, or the audacity to tell me, and they should have, that I really looked like I had died and forgot to lay down. I was always very hungry. I could never get enough food to eat. Like I said, I lost weight without trying. And I started having a blurred vision. Now, I already have pretty bad eyesight. I had amblyopia as a child. And back then, they didn't even know that you could be diagnosed with it. So I had the blurred vision, and that wasn't really a big clue. Then I had numb or tingling hands or feet, which is now, I know now it's called diabetic peripheral neuropathy. And I was always very tired. I had very dry skin. I mean, it's like wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. Even Vaseline to work. Sores that heal slowly, and I had more infections. And for women, we would get a whole lot of vaginal infections, urinary tract infections, and all that was a result of diabetes. And what I did, I went through all of the symptoms. I had pretty much every single symptom that goes with being aware of you having diabetes.
And as I look at my list, I was going to share. You have shared my list, and it says people can have any one or even none of the symptoms, but you had them all. That is the
Yes.
top list, and we can have those symptoms and overlook even all of them together and overlook them. Um, what made you? How? What happened? What was the incident that allowed you to find out these symptoms were a result of diabetes?
Well, when I went to because our mother had diabetes, and I was kind of aware of some stuff that was going on. And I think the thing that got me the most, I was feeling so tired. When I would go to work, I mean, I would just like go to work, lay down, wake up, go to work, lay down, wake up, and I couldn't, no, I just couldn't function. Then I looked up. I said, let me just look up and see what are some of the symptoms of diabetes. When I looked it up, it's like, wow, I am the textbook case. So when I saw I had all of those, I went to the doctor and I said, I think I have diabetes. He said, huh? I said, yeah, I think I got diabetes. You can go ahead and do whatever you have to do. He came back. He says, no, I don't think you have diabetes. You do. And I, my sugar at the time was extremely high. That was around in the summertime. During when it got colder, I started feeling really bad, and I thought I had a cold. And people don't take Nyquil because Nyquil is nothing but the alcohol and sugar. And my I went up, it went up real high. And I never forget, I was at a meeting, and this older white lady. She said, "Baby, I'm not trying to be funny, but you look like a piece of you know what. I want you to go to the doctor right now." Now, at first she said, "Look, baby, I'm looking out for your own best interest." So when I went back, it turned out that my sugar had gone up to like 890. The sugar should read between, I guess, 90 and 125, depending upon the person. So I was admitted into the doctor. I was admitted into the hospital. My sugars went up. Oh, and I forgot, during that holiday, to this day, I will not look at a pecan pie because I was eating pecan pie like it was going out of style. So my sugars kept going up and up and up until this January. That's when I went back into the hospital. And that's when my doctor told me, he says, either you want to live or you want to die. It's up to you right now. And so that's what that. Although I had been diagnosed, that just kind of further forwarded what my diagnosis was at that time.
I see. Let me take a break here because this is a something that really impacts our community. Normally, I invite everyone to share or start a watch party in the beginning. So, for those of you who may be listening and like you're like me, I'm on Facebook. Don't ask me to do too much. Let me remind you how to do it. If you look just below the picture of the video, you'll see the word share. You can click on the word share, and when you do, it will allow you to share it, or you can click on watch party. So invite others into this conversation, share it, and others can be a part of this conversation. We looked at you had so many of the symptoms that were prevalent, and we've got questions coming in, but I want to ask you, um, how does how does being diabetic impact your life?
Well, if you're going to do right, you'll eat right, exercise right, and do what's necessary. And it can be very difficult to do. People say, "Well, you just do right." Well, when you've been living the same way a long time, it's hard to change over. Now, I was diagnosed back in '92. That was what 28 years ago, and no, 1991. It was 29 years ago. And it ebbs and flows. I do real well, and sometimes I backslide. I do real well, and one way it has impacted my life. This summer, at the beginning of July, I felt something at the bottom of my foot, and I figured it was, it was an infection or something. I went to the doctor on that Tuesday. They said it was. He said, "Yeah, it looks like you do have a infection." He said, "Why don't you get called? They're gonna call you, give you the first what is it
Appointment?
appointment I can get." So I said, okay. Well, I didn't get an appointment until the end of the month, and I went, something's not right. So that was on a Tuesday. I believe that was like the 15th. So that Friday, I went to the hospital because I said I could no longer walk on that foot. And if it was infected, I knew they could give me something. Went to the hospital thinking, okay, they're just gonna give me something. And even the doctor says, now what we can do, we can give you an over-the-counter um, antibiotic, but we feel it costs so much more. What do you want to do? So of course, I put myself in their hands. I was admitted into the hospital, and 8 days later, I had my small right left toe amputated. I had osteomyelitis, which is an infection, and as a result, they tried to save it. I had one operation on that Friday, and I had another operation. They said we're going to go in and take some tissue and look at it. So they said that on that Sunday we're going to go back and we're going to see what we can do. But you have to sign a waiver now because we have to take it. We have to take it. We don't want to have to wake you up. And I was in that twilight. I never did go into because I didn't want to go into the deep anesthesia. And when I woke up, they told me they had to take it. And being in the hospital, which I think that was a diabetic impact on my life during COVID, was one of the loneliest things a person could ever go through because coming out of the surgery um, and finding out I didn't have a little bitty, I had 9 toes instead of 10 toes, not having anyone there to just comfort or console me was a very, very difficult thing. So diabetes can affect, is it from the top of your head to the bottom of your toe? Right now I'm on a regimen. Thank God by December 4th, I should be out from under the doctor. One of the other thing diabetic impacts is that, okay, y'all, I'm not a diva, but I do look kind of cute. Have y'all ever seen diabetic shoes? They, and I'm okay, I know this is incorrect English. They is ugly. But I did find some that weren't that bad. So I've just been fitted for my shoes. Since the toe was taken off, I've had to ride one of those scooters, one of those knee scooters. So now, once I get my shoes back, I can practice on my, on my shoes, and it'll go back. But how does it impact your life? Me, is it impacted my life devastatingly. Our mother died from complications from diabetes. Our father and our sister, who have transitioned as a result of cancer, they developed a diabetic-like condition as a result of the chemo. So all of that wasn't me. That was still affecting my life. That has been the impact on my life.
Thank you for sharing that. We've got several questions I want to bring up, and
Hmm.
we hear, especially in the African American community, there is diabetes, kidney problems, and high blood pressure, and there's a correlation.
Hmm.
One can feed, and we're going to talk about that. One question was, do you think there is a correlation between high blood pressure meds and diabetes? And what I can tell you is that there are some blood pressure medicines, which are beta blockers, which can raise
Hmm.
your blood sugar levels.
Hmm.
Not all of them, but yes, there is one. And here's the thing, you know this and I know this. You take one medicine for one thing, it gives you side effects for another one, and you have to go take
Hmm.
another one for the side effects. And guess what? It has side effects of its own. So yes, it is true that some blood pressure medicines can impact your sugar levels.
Yes.
And if you find out that that's a problem, that's when you can work with your doctors because it's not all of them. It's just certain beta blockers. And I won't name the drugs, but yes, that can definitely be a side effect.
And Bronwyn, just the condition itself of diabetes can affect your blood pressure with the endocrine system and all. So just that alone, without even adding the medication to the mix, it can affect. They're interrelated.
And I always say health is health. Our mental, physical, spiritual health is all interwoven. You can't impact one without impacting another. So, one of the issues with diabetes is depression. And you don't hear about it a lot as I'd say, a side effect. Before I give anything, what do you have to say about the relationship between depression and diabetes?
Well, I can say that I am challenged with clinical depression. Some of it I may have already had, some familial stuff or whatever, but the majority of it comes from being a diabetic. A lot in my book that I talked about earlier, I had 2 doctors who wrote about the relationship of diabetes and depression. And many doctors don't even talk about it. When you go to a doctor, I just feel this, and oh, I just feel that. They'll say, well, just go and just get your sugar under control without even addressing the depression. I would say to anyone who out there who is being challenged with diabetes and feel, some of the symptoms of depression, then go and seek help. Go and talk to a therapist. Let them know that you have diabetes. But first, tell your doctor, because some doctors is like, oh wow, I didn't even think about that, and then they can give you a referral. But even if they don't want to take that extra step, find you someone to talk to about this depression. I've been on depression meds. I do some deep, like what Brahman shared, the deep breathing. Because sometimes, I get up and, well, I don't. Sometimes you can't even get out of bed because of that depression. You get depressed because your sugar's high. Your sugar's high because you're depressed. And before you know it, you're like that rat on that little, on that little
Treadmill.
circle thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, treadmill. Just going around and around and around and around. That's why it's very important. And then don't let people, well, child, I even had somebody say, well, it was just your little toe. You don't have nothing to be depressed about. You too blessed to be stressed. Number one, I came here with 10 toes. I want to leave with 10, not 9. And when they say you're too blessed to be stressed, I know I'm blessed. I'm blessed and highly favored because I'm I'm all that more because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. You can tell that Mom and them did give us these. We were kind of what is it, uplifting ourselves in a good way. But when you go through all of that, don't be afraid. Don't let anybody uh, uh, talk to you or talk down to you or talk about you because you may be going through this depression as a result of diabetes. Seek help.
And Jamie says, they're busy pushing medicines down your throat in lieu of having a conversation. So, yes, ask for a referral to speak with a therapist about it.
Hmm.
And it is so true. And most health plans have some form of behavioral health that, you can assist if you have insurance. If you work for larger companies, they have an EAP, which is an employee assistance program. And you can call the EAP and you will get anywhere from 6 to 10 sessions free. Um, so yes, it's important. So let's look at that just for a moment, because it really outlines how the body and mind are all together and how they're intertwined. As she said, you're depressed, and your depression can raise your sugar levels. And then when your sugar levels go high, you're depressed because they're high. And now they're high, and I'm depressed, and it goes back and forth. And learning how to manage it. And here's the thing: there are some people who may need a pill to get it in control, and I'm not saying take this pill forever. But understanding that, well, again, I've said this about other things. When it comes to our mental health, when it comes to depression, we feel it's something wrong with us and we're weak. We can accept we have diabetes. Well, I just can't help it. It's my sugar. But if it comes to when it comes to our mental health, oh my gosh, we don't want to. We can't do it. We're weak. You're not. And a lot of times our depression can be caused by physical illness. Diabetes impacts it. Your thyroid can impact it. So many things that are wrong with your body physically that are attacking any part of your endocrine system can cause you to be depressed. Because it's a physiological issue at that point. Candace says, I encourage you all to request having your A1C at your annual doctor's visit. And that's so important. Sonya, would you thank you, Candace, for that? I was going to bring that up. And thanks for reminding me of that. Can you let people know what your A1C is? Because not everybody gets it done at their annual physical. You are correct.
And and thank you, Candace. That was on my notes to say. That was my next point. Your A1C, what it's a blood test, and what they do, they look at the average of your last 3 months blood sugar levels. Your A1C should typically be under 6.0. Mine has been as high as 13 in the world of diabetes, which is not good at all. So you want to get it once you they look at it, and if it's a certain level, they may put you on some preliminary medicines, or just have you to really watch your diets and do this, and they'll have you to take your sugars, and if it continue to be up, then they may want to go to the next level. But all it is looking at what is your average blood sugar levels for the past 3 months.
And so that's just a simple blood test?
Yes, yes, they do a blood test. In fact, when they take you, many times when you go to the doctor, you have your CBC,
Mm-hmm.
complete blood count.
Mm-hmm.
Like Candace, that you can ask them, could you please check my A1C?
So it's not always automatically when you
No, it
get
is
your
not
physical.
automatic at all.
Mm-hmm.
If you if you do not present any symptoms for diabetes or have any familial connections, they won't do it. But it's always good to ask. And then if you do have family members, and although you may not have any symptoms, you still may want to get it checked to make sure you're not going down that road.
And one of the things we said, and we talked about the symptoms in the beginning, and as I studied, some people with diabetes are even asymptomatic. You don't have
Hmm.
any symptoms.
Right.
And I would say, as it's one more blood test. If you're already going and you can afford one more blood test, because it is so common in our community, and we get diagnosed at later stages with illnesses, therefore, it is harder for us to. Um, and that's where it's harder for us to be treated because we're further
Hmm.
down the road. So it's something that we can find out and just ask, okay, can I get that check? And as she says, if you don't ask, they're not going to do it in many cases.
Hmm.
I go in because I have a family with diabetic history. I, try to keep up with that. But there are a lot of things just an aside, not just with that. You might, check your cholesterol numbers, do these things. If you are going to the doctor, have these tests run. We are coming up on the holidays. And as I said, someone said to me earlier, how
Hmm.
dare you talk about eating right and being healthy as we enter the holiday season? And actually, I say, what better time to talk about it? To make people think, okay, and it doesn't matter what's going on. We need to learn to eat healthier. We know that for many, this holiday season will be different. Some people are like, well, I'm not going to travel. I won't do all this, but we're going to cook at home and we want to feel normal. So we're going to have, everything. Um, so that means there will still be a lot going on. So, we're going to talk about what should we do for the holidays. But before I do that, I don't want to leave the A1C. How often, if you're not diabetic, but maybe you have a family history or maybe you're worried, is it something you get checked once a year, every 6 months, or how often should you do that?
Well, I would, if you're, if you don't have, if you just want to get it checked, I think when you have your annual physical, and I do say annual, you should get a physical every year. Should ask for it at that physical.
And if you have a family history, is 1 year, would you say that's still good enough?
And I would have that conversation with your
PCP?
doctor. It's depend because it depends on what was your A1C. If it's going a little higher, your doctor may want you to have it, more often than once a year. Or even if you just have a funny feeling, whatever, I would go in at 6 months and say, you know what? I think I need to get my A1C checked because I think there's something going on. Remember, you are your own best advocate for your health.
And Denise says again, could you repeat under what should it be under? Did you say it should be under 6.0?
Under 6.0. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's important. So going back to this holidays, what can people do to support diabetics? Now, let's say out of everyone who's listening, everyone who on here who's African American, you probably have somebody in your family that's diabetic.
Mm-hmm.
As we looked at the stats, it's just realistic. How do we support people as a diabetic? What do you think? What kind of support? And when I say holidays, that's Christmas, that's even Halloween, because all that candy's around, and
Mm-hmm.
it goes on sale the day after, and you can get a whole lot of candy, 75% off for a big bag of your favorite candy. You can, then there's Thanksgiving, and there's all the what is Thanksgiving without dessert? Then there's Christmas, more dessert. And prior to COVID, there were Christmas parties that start in November through the end of the year. And then there's Kwanzaa. There's the shared feast, and it's supposed to be all healthy food, but you bring in the leftover Christmas stuff too to the Kwanzaa feast. So then we get into New Year's Day. Oh, then there's
Mm-hmm.
Valentine's Day. Gotta have that box of chocolates. And Easter, we have to have the big Easter dinner. Oh, we leave Easter. Then we get into what is it? Memorial Day.
Memorial Day.
And then 4th of July and family reunions. And then there is Labor Day. In other words, every season of the year,
Hmm.
we find something to celebrate. And every time we celebrate, we are celebrating with food. So, with all that food going around and it's going right under your nose, oh, it just smells good. What can we do to support diabetics?
Well, the first thing you should not do is the shaming and blaming game. You know you're not supposed to eat that. Or if somebody's putting something in their mouth, come and jerk it out of their hands. Or just talk about that person bad as if they can't hear, they're not even there because they're diabetic. You have to, you can correct with love. You know, when you have, if well, not a matter now, but, in the past, it would always be good to have a sugar-free dessert on the table for that person. If you know you have family members with diabetes, well, fix a sugar-free dessert. I can fix a sweet potato pie that you will never know is sugar-free. It's just that good. But then again, just and it's not that we don't can't have any sugar. Yes, we can, but just a little. Once you start grabbing stuff out of our hands and shaming and blaming us, what is that going to do? That's going to push us. I'm going to show them. Now, I know it's not making any sense, but once you've been shamed and blamed and talked about so bad that depression sets in, and when you're depressed, what do you do a lot of times? You eat, and you eat the wrong things. So be there with love with your family members, And you know what? We don't need 85 million different desserts on the table anyway. No one needs to have all of that sugar, whether you're diabetic or not. You can, like I said, this year is going to be completely different because we are not going to have these big family gatherings, and we pray that you do not do that because of COVID. So just be there with love for your family member. Support them. Let them know, baby. I know I don't. You never say you know what somebody's going through, but just say, I'm here to help you. We're going to love you. We're going to support you. And we want to see you be here a long time. We want to see you live. If you talk to me like that, I'm going to start smiling and I'm going to feel good about myself. And I'm going to think twice before picking up that tat and cream cake, that German chocolate cake. Yeah, these are my triggers. I'm just letting you know. But you're not going to do it.
That is so true. One final, can you believe we've come to the end of the show? It went so quickly. I did want to, because this is Candace's field, so I wanted to share. She says if your doctor is going to monitor, they typically will have you check it every 3 months. Your A1C, um, if your A1C is like maybe just under 6 or it's 6, if it's 6 or higher, she says they're likely to put you on meds
Right.
automatically. Or if it's right at it, they will probably monitor it. And you want to be aware. So you want to know, oh, okay, well, I'm staying at a 5. I need to maybe make some lifestyle changes. I'm not a 6 yet, but 5 is getting close to 6. So
and
these are
and
some
Brahman,
good
many
things.
times they will have you to get a glucometer. They're
Mm-hmm.
not expensive at all, and have you to check your own sugar periodically. And if you notice some trends going up, in fact, they'll have you to come in uh, uh, before that 3 month period is over.
And the last thing is honey a better sweetener than white sugar?
Well, honey is a better sweetener, but honey still has some carbs in it. Because see, with diabetes, we're counting the carbs, and we should have no more than what is it? I think it's 20 to 23 carbs per meal. That's like 60 a day. But honey has still has a lot of carbs. So white sugar is a no-no. Any way you look at it, just a no-no. So you can use honey, but still not as in abundance as if you didn't have diabetes. And
Well,
there's agave, there's and some of the sweeteners, you can use some of those.
well,
And don't
out
forget vegetables, vegetables, vegetable. I'll be quiet.
if you're out there, there's a lot you can do, a lot you can study yourself. Um, remember, it's something that you can work on. And so my call to action for this week is practice self-care, as we've talked about, and part of that self-care may mean you need to go find out what your A1C is. You need to think about what you're eating this holiday season and beyond. And as we talked about it, I can find some reason every month of the year to overeat and to eat sweets. So it's always a holiday season. Get adequate rest, not just sleep, rest. Rest can, especially in this COVID season, um, your anxiety can be higher, your depression can be higher, your eating can be out of whack. Taking proper self care, eating right, and rest. Check on loved ones. People are more alone right now. Check on them. If it's a phone call, if it's dropping something at their door and talking to them through the door if they don't want you in the house. And continue to manage your food and alcohol intake. It's important. What goes in impacts you. Junk in, junk out. So, we have more questions coming later on. I will answer them in the chat, but we are out of time. And as I say, as I like to tell you, mental health is health. So just think about your health and making it better. And I encourage you, think about what you're eating. Be kind to that diabetic in your life. Sonya, I will let you have one final 30-second comment if you would like.
Yes, what I want to say is, you know what? It's not just a little sugar. We've got a disease and we will control this thing called diabetes. And more than anything else, remember that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Diabetic and all. Whatever it is God has given you, we going to get through with this. Have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And by the way, Thanksgiving is the greatest day of the year because this year it's my birthday.
Whatever. So, thank you for all of the wonderful comments and being engaged tonight. Share this. This is information that if you didn't share yet, now you can share it when it's over. Share this. Let's get the word out. Just some information. Let's put it on people's mind that diabetes is something that we can take control of. Think of the things we've said to others, and if there's a diabetic in your life, treat them with the same compassion you would want to be treated with. So as we
And
sign,
Bronwyn, I didn't say, I just love my little sister Bronwyn, and she's doing a wonderful job. And just thank you on behalf of the community. You're all right.
okay, you got to let big sisters be big sisters. So I'll just say, I'll just say thank you. So, and always remember, as I like to end, saying mental health is good, is health. So go out, enjoy, and have some good mental health. See you next week.